Okay, welcome everyone, and I welcome you all to IAPM International Association of Project Managers India Network Meeting on Hybrid Project Management. And today we have very special guests from IAPM and other parts of the world. We have with us Dr. Hans Stromier, who is the president of International Association of Project Managers, along with Linda Ottman, who is the Chief Communication Officer of IAPM. So welcome, Linda. Welcome, Dr. Stromier. Nice to have you on this platform. And along with me, we have other senior officials. Along with me, Vikram Jain, Ankur Joshi, and Mahesh EV. So welcome everyone. And I am Gaurav Dhooper. I am also senior official from India. So we are from different parts of India. I am from Noida. Vikram is from Jaipur, Ankur from Pune, and Mahesh from New Delhi and Calicut. So these are our 4 officials from India. So before going into the actual topic and discussion, I would like to invite Dr. Hans Stromier to speak and share a few words on the history of IAPM, how it was founded, and his vast experience on project management across various platforms and areas which he wants to cover. So Dr. Stromier, over to you.
Hi, thank you very much. Well, Gaurav, I highly appreciate and I feel flattered to be able to introduce IAPM in your network meeting. And I wanted to stress that you, Mahesh, Vikram, and Ankur, we owe you a lot. You are network officials now for an organization, and our organization is based on those people helping us to promote project management. And I really have to say you are doing a great job for our behavior, for us in India, promoting the organization and, for instance, also organizing this meeting here. So thank you very much. Well, I also would like to thank charming Linda Ottman, who is still on video. She's doing a great job, and we are very, very happy to have her on board now, being the Chief Communications Officer of our organization. Well, the IAPM, I would like to tell you some words about our organization. I will have a few PowerPoint slides. Before I do so, I want to tell you that the IAPM is really, well, an organization that exists for almost since 1997, which means what we did, we met with very interesting people, others who promote project management already almost 10 years before that, so already throughout the 90s. It was kind of a think tank. We met together and we talked about what is important in project management, what are the most important developments. But one day we thought, well, when we look at the other organizations who are out there like PMI or IPMA or whatever, they do lack certain things where we think could be better. And what we think is what differentiates us from them is we are very, very internet-based, we are young, we are flexible, and we are agile. And I'm going to talk about agility a little bit more in my presentation. So I hope that technology doesn't, well, hope technology now works. I'm going to share my screen. Just the question, can everybody see now my PowerPoint?
We can.
You can, okay, because you never know with technology. I'm gonna talk and then nobody sees anything. So this is my entry slide, and I'm going to the next one. No, it doesn't work. Okay. Here you see what I already told you. We were founded almost more than 20 years ago. We are registered in Liechtenstein, which is a very small country where I'm now located. It's now my home country. It is comparing to India, it's like a stamp. It is very small. And when you drive through with your car, it takes about 15 minutes and then you are through. You almost won't notice it. But it is very central in Europe. For us, it's very advantageous because we have access to all European countries very easily. And from Zurich spoken, which is Switzerland, we also can reach other countries worldwide. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to put our organization to Liechtenstein. Well, the next thing that I really wanted to tell you is a little bit about my past, because whatever I experienced in my past, I'm trying to put as much as I can into the IAPM. Well, when you look behind me, you see, well, the good old space shuttle. And I have to say, to my utter dismay, it was retired at the end of the 2010s because the shuttle just was too expensive to be operated. It once was planned to be kind of a bus service. That's why it's called shuttle. You enter the bus, you go to space, you leave the bus. Unfortunately, that never came through. So, but in my time when I worked for the German space program, I had the opportunity to learn a lot about project management philosophy by NASA. Now, NASA, what are they doing? They are putting people into space and they are doing projects like the moon landing. The lunar landing showed, when you, for instance, look at whatever happened at Apollo 13, and I highly would recommend you to watch the movie with Tom Hanks in the major role. Well, space project management means A, you have to know what you have to do, but B, which is very important, you have to be able to have access to your resources in stressful situations. And I think there's no doubt about that. This was very stressful at Apollo 13 when all of a sudden the astronauts had to be returned to Earth with a broken lunar module. So that is what project management for me is all about. First of all, of course, you need to have your instruments. Well, like being able to make a Gantt chart, a breakdown structure, or the other things. But you also need to be able to have access to your resources in stressful situations. And now we are coming to the most important part. As a project manager, you need to be able to be calm, and you need to be able to communicate in stressful situations. Those leadership people who show that they still know to think organized and to do what needs to be done in stress, these are the ones who are the best. And that's exactly what I'm trying, or what we're trying to promote with the IAPM. So I'm coming to my next slide. You see a little bit about my past. I did crazy things. I trained in hypergravity. I trained in zero gravity. And well, we learned what happens when all of a sudden hypergravity becomes zero gravity, you start floating. And I will tell you one thing, when you are a project manager and all of a sudden you have an unlucky event in your project, all of a sudden your project is bound to fail. You lose the floor underneath your feet. You get into this stress situation. And this is why we believe this kind of training is important, of course, for project managers. It's a bit different compared to astronauts. Okay, I was a little bit, I'm getting lost myself because it was a great time of my life. But I have to say the greatest time is right now when I'm able, together with my very valued companion, he's the Vice President, Dr. Ronald Ottman. He's the author of a very good project management book, which is The Naked Project Manager. Of course, it's also available in English. And in this book, which I highly appreciate, is there are many examples. It's practically spoken. So by example, he's explaining what he believes in a certain situation needs to be done. And this exactly also applies to the IAPM. You will see that we certify, and for certification, we have guides. And when you read those guides, and when you do a little bit extra examination or research in the internet, and there's so much stuff in the internet, you cannot fail our exams. Now, the interesting thing is we have guides for project management, which is the traditional waterfall model. We have Agile for approaches like Scrum, like extreme programming, like Kanban, and others, feature-driven development, and so on. And we have the international guide. For instance, when we are working together with folks in India, we have to understand there are other cultural dimensions compared to Germany. And this is very important, again, for team building. So go to the international guide because it tells you about why people in other countries sometimes react differently to certain situations compared to when you are in this one. We Germans are very structured, and in other countries, people are very structured as well, but they may be more team-oriented. This would, for instance, apply to Northern European countries. The team aspect is more in their culture than in our in Germany. Germans always say we are goal-oriented, okay? And you do the goal and no matter what. And in Northern European countries, a little bit more, okay, why don't we do it together? And why don't we take a look at our team and such stuff? Okay, now I'm coming to another important part because this really relates to what you are doing in your presentation today, which is hybrid. So I would like to focus on the hybrid white paper. Why is it a white paper? Very simple, because hybrid project management per se, the hybrid project management does not exist. Hybrid project management is a tailored project management approach based on A, the traditional, and B, the agile approach. And in many situations, you cannot go just agile or just classical. In some situations, you have to find the best way in between. And that's exactly what this guy is focusing on. And this is exactly what you are going to learn in this presentation today. So it is very case-based, and each project needs to have a different and an individual look at how best you can combine both approaches. This is why we cannot actually certify a hybrid project manager. For these reasons, it's not possible. Okay, you see the different, again, the different certificates that we offer. This is in all the publications of the IAPM. Finally, you see a little bit about we are worldwide. Everything what is red in this case is, please, it is not Corona, okay? It is our certificates, all right? So don't mix this map up with the Corona map. But you see that we are already almost worldwide. About 4,800 certificates have been issued, and we are mounting by the day. So the next thing that I want to show you, and then I complete because I do not want to take too much time away from you. You see, of course, that we certify based on knowledge and on experience. And the nice thing is when you are certified on knowledge, say this year in 2020, but you do not have the necessary experience yet to be certified for both, then you can wait for maybe even up to 5 years. Because after 5 years, you may have the necessary knowledge. You can prove it to the IAPM. You do not have to make another exam. You just prove your knowledge, and then you get your upgrade to the senior certificate. All right. So I think that's another vast advantage of our organizations to all the others. Well, finally, our organization, we are independent. In other words, you can independently train yourself. There is no way that we would look how you do your training. It's you decide it by yourself. The examinations are taken online by the class marker system. That is a worldwide accepted methodology by many, many universities in the United States and in Europe. And it is very fair to everybody. And it's not easy to cheat, by the way, all right? So you have to learn your stuff before you do it. The fee concept is based on your gross domestic product, which means the fees in India are based on Indian environmental conditions compared to Germany or Switzerland, where they are different. So it's much fairer than any other organization. All the other organizations don't do that. Finally, we are internationally recognized. I could tell you a lot about recognition in Germany, but I don't want to spend too much time. They are graded unbiased, okay, and there are no recertification procedures. In other words, your certificate is valid your lifelong. That is also a major difference to other organizations. So come to the IAPM and do your certificate with us. Finally, there's a lot of platform stuff at the IAPM. We have cheat sheets for junior project and certified certificates. But there's one other thing that I would like to focus on. There are 2 online web-based learning platforms now. And really for everyone, if you go through those, you cannot fail, all right? So there's for junior project management in traditional project management, and also for certified or senior certificates, all right? Okay, we are in LinkedIn, we are on Twitter, and there are many articles available. Having said all that, thank you very much, guys. I would like to go back, and now I hope I'm able to, now how can I do that? I think I need some help now because I don't find, oh yeah, there it is. All right, how to stop the share. I'm stopping it. All right, the platform is back to you guys. Gaurav and everybody else, I wish you good luck with the presentation and thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Stromer. Thank you so much for this insightful speech and with fantastic examples from your vast experience. So this was really delightful and thank you so much. So now we would start with the actual topic of hybrid project management. And I'm just going to share my screen. Hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, Gaurav.
Great.
Yes,
okay.
yeah, we can see as well.
Fantastic. Okay. So to start with, we'll go different project management approaches, and then we'll be discussing about what is the applicability and what is the need of hybrid project management, followed by hybrid project management structures, types, and what are the anti-patterns and best practices. So we would start with some brief background about project management approaches. And I would like Ankur to start with this first topic of various approaches in project management. Over to you, Ankur.
Thank you, Gaurav. And thank you everyone for attending this session. It is our first session and it has been made possible because of the effort of entire IAPM team here. And thank you so much for attending. And people who are other than IAPM attending this session, I would like to thank all of you because it is due to the joint effort that we are going to make our project management learnings more successful and will be gaining more and more exposure in this particular area. Now, before I begin with this particular side, a brief introduction of mine. I will not take more than 1 or 2 minutes. My name is Ankur Joshi. I represent the Pune metropolitan area for IAPM as a network senior official. And my experience comes from drug safety management, which is basically pharmacovigilance, in which basically we study the drugs and their impact in terms of adverse event on the patients who are taking those medications. Now, how project management is applied to these principles is technically when you're working in a service industry, from which I come from, basically, what happens is there are a couple of clients such as bigger multinational companies who have specific projects that needs to get transitioned from their location to us or from a previous vendor to the next vendor, which could be my company. So this is where we utilize the project management philosophies and principles, and this is where the project management approaches are of I would say extremely beneficial for us. And to know more about this area is one of my major understanding, one of my major goal to achieve. I have close to 10 years of experience in this, and currently I am working for a global multinational company, which is known as Covance and Corporation. So just going ahead with our project management approaches, this slide is pretty basic, but as they say that we need to go back to our foundations first before we try to build up something new. So this is how we are going to start. So speaking about our first topic, which is project management approaches, we are looking at 3 different approaches. One would be the traditional method, the other is the agile methods, and the third one would be the hybrid methods. Now, speaking of our predictive project management, which is one of the traditional method, we can say that when the scope of work and requirements for the projects are clear and they justify a detailed upfront planning, this is where we utilize predictive project management. Now, predictive project management is also known as traditional, conventional, or waterfall project management. There are a couple of approaches which are very popular in terms of how predictive project management goes and how it is applied. I would name the only 2 ones which are most popular right now. So popular predictive PM approaches can accompany the PMBOK or Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide, as well as Prince Project Management. So this is an example of predictive project management. Now coming to our second topic, which is adaptive project management. The difference between predictive and adaptive here is that the scope of work and requirements for the project, when they are difficult to define, due to which there is a need that we have to be responsive or iterative as approach to planning everything upfront, this is where we apply the adaptive project management approach. Now, this is also known as responsive or iterative approach, and it is most often simply called agile project management, agile thinking, or an agile approach. There are several different frameworks used to implement the agile, all of which sit under an agile umbrella of adaptive project management. Some examples, some most common examples of which could be Scrum, Kanban, etc. Uh, when we have a combination of both of these approaches, in order to address the issues which you will definitely go through in the later slides, this is where a hybrid approach comes into existence, wherein you try to utilize the best methodologies both from traditional as well as agile, and try to find a common base work where we can utilize these hybrid methods in order to address the specific problems which we face while we apply only one approach, which could be the predictive or could be adaptive. So this is where we utilize hybrid project management approach, which is nothing but a blend of adaptive approach and predictive approach. Uh, Here on the image source of side, we have tried to put in an image which will try to show how the traditional methods, agile method, and hybrid method, and it's a base of Venn diagram wherein we can see that hybrid method basically sits somewhere between traditional and methods, like we already discussed. So I would also like to bring your attention to a study which was regarding achieving greater agility, which found that the companies exhibiting a high degree of agility, 68% of them used agile methods, 71% were using predictive, and 72% used a hybrid methodology. Speaking of the mindsets, we have predictive mindset as well as adaptive mindset, like we discussed. Now, predictive mindset is like working on a fixed set of requirement, controlling the behavior, and it is very result focused, task oriented, and output driven. Going to the adaptive mindsets, it responds well to the changes, like we said, reiterative, and it has participative behavior and learning focused, value oriented or outcome driven. There are different methodologies, there are different industries where a couple of these approaches in terms of predictive mindset and adaptive mindset is more suitable, but in the end it all boils down to what is the purpose, what is the project. In my understanding, uh, selection of approach should be on the basis of the requirement that we have at hand, the kind of objective that we are going to achieve, and according to our outcome, as well as the basic understanding is we have to first select our project and then see which methodology is going to be most beneficial to us, and then adapt it. Of course, we are talking about hybrid methodologies here. uh, so the later slides will take up the subject matter in terms of more detailed understanding of how it is to be applied. So with this I would say, I would hand it over to Mahesh to take up the next slides. So
Sure.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Ankur. Yeah, so before moving, as Ankur rightly mentioned about making a blend of both predictive and adaptive approaches. So here, if you see where we are talking about controlling behavior and result focus. So we are not saying that predictive is a better approach or adaptive is a better approach. The point is we need to have the right blend where we do not lose the governance required. See, when we talk about adaptive approaches, we also need some amount of control and consistency, right? So over a period of time, when we achieve that consistency, so that predictability will come. But point over here is that if we want to achieve total control and total predictability, that is an illusion. So there was one recent article which I read in Harvard. So it said that the amount of control and predictability needs to be in the right fashion, where it gives the value delivery, as well as it also helps in completing your task as per schedule. So that's how we can make a blend of both these mindsets. So none of these mindset is good or bad. It's only about how we approach the project management with predictive and adaptive mindsets. So over to you, Mahesh, for the next topic, which talks about the need of hybrid project management, practicality and applicability.
Hello, everyone. So it's my pleasure to honor here to speak with you in front of you all. And it is a teamwork, first of all. Thanks to Angur and thanks to Linga and thanks to Stromer for your insightful speech. So anyway, I would like to speak, share regarding me some about my professional career and all. Myself, Mahesh, and I am a representative of New Delhi metropolitan area, IAPM. And basically, I'm working in waterfall methodology and almost 12 years experience totally purely in, I can say, in waterfall. And moreover, in construction industry, I work construction industry, both power sector and renewable sector and oil and gas, etc. Anyway, we are discussing about one of the hot topic today, hybrid project management, and the entire world is discussing now. First of all, this what I can say is mindset. Mindset is one of the major things because we are all an experienced person. Both we are working in agile methodology and we are working in construction, in waterfall traditional methodology. So I'm not saying which one is not good and which one is not bad. We need both for our end delivery. So if we need predictive and we need adaptive approach. We are not discussing about agile, which is agile is performed in particular area and waterfall is performed in particular areas. Not at all. We need both. So this hybrid project management, there is a magic behind hybrid project management. First of all, we have to understand what is hybrid project management. Before understanding hybrid project, we need to understand what is waterfall, what is other methodologies, what is and in real waterfall and traditional methodology, which is a blend. It's a true project management excellence. What I can say, really project management excellence, because we are blending variety of methodologies together for a particular outcome. That is the more important things. So why it is using hybrid? Because Stromer is already said, it's a one initiative speech. What the agile is, that has some limitation for all methodologies, not at all agile. In even can it's waterfall and traditional, there is a limitation, and agile there is a limitation. Even if we are saying artificial intelligence, new babies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these are all upcoming means methodologies. Instead of discussing what we are failed, we need to understand what we are succeed. So for success, we are blending some this good methodology. As PIM, we can use PIMBOK, we can use IAPM methodology, we can use PRINCE methodology, what we are tailored from the old projects. So this hybrid project management, one is we are using the complex situation where these both methodologies cannot perform well. So in the particular situation, in my opinion, is hybrid project management can perform well. It is a proven methodology, and myself, my team also are using the same method, especially in the construction industry and the power sector, where this entire mindset is to be totally 100% required. So what we are using the positives of hybrid and positives of agile and positives of in waterfall, traditional waterfall. And what is the positive other methodology? There's Kanban and what is we can Six Sigma. There are a lot of framework what we are using for project management. First of all, we are all experienced project managers, so it is at the end of the day we are going to establish the project. That's it is in our hand which methodology is better as per the context situation, what context says. So in the hybrid product management, where it is applicable really is the complex situation. Then the question will arise, what is the complex situation? What is the complex project? What we can say? The complex situation says we can say strategy to business and the high is impact, high business impact where we require for organization and the milestone centric. So milestone is a step-by-step process. We have to achieve the milestone first of all for end delivery. So where is the milestone? It's a structured way. For achievement of the milestone, we need the iterative approach. At the same time, we can use the agile concept in the agile flavor of the agile of the particular activity and particular task which is going to establish. So mindset is required and high complexity is where it's more than one or two stakeholders. In long, you can say the long term, in a long term project, the stakeholder number of stakeholders is very big. So handling the stakeholder as per the traditional methodology, I can honestly say it's not at all possible for managing the stakeholder and stakeholder satisfaction and team building and etc. So there is a better option. We can in a hybrid. Well, if we are using hybrid, there is an option, the soft skill, that which in the technical skill, we can adopt the soft skill with the traditional methodology. Not saying like customer people management and the team building and stakeholder management, etc. We can adopt for the stakeholder satisfaction and our project delivery for smoothly. And the next thing is the project should be flexible. For project, there should be a flexibility and adaptivity both. If we are sticking only one one methodology, no, I'm not saying traditional, I'm not saying agile, I'm not nothing. If we are using only one particular methodology instead of using the variety, there is a chance for failing the project. We cannot share. We cannot sure our project will succeed or not. Just for example, one of the good example I can say, for flight. The flight will start one destination and it will depart for next. So they landed on next destination. So in between there is a lot of uncertainty will happen. So it is purely it's depend upon the captain who is driving the flight. The same thing we can adopt in our project man case also, because we are captain, we are a project manager. In the flight case, suppose it will depend, it's totally depend on the climate and the wind velocity, etc. Suppose the smooth landing, the captain should adopt the flap level, not at the point of flap level. The flap level will not say the aircraft, airlines agency and other all. It's really depend on excellency what the captain is using the particular context. You can use the 1 degree, I can use the second degree and third degree, the angle of the flap for smooth landing and for saving the entire passenger. The same philosophy we can adopt in project management also. So I already published one of my article in LinkedIn. I'm getting a lot of comments regarding agile is very good and the traditional methodology is only the one thing we can adopt in the entire world. Is absolutely, in my opinion, it's absolutely not possible, because we are all experienced the real context. What is the real context saying? The situational basis action is more important for a project management success. A PM can only understand which situation he is facing. In my case, if anything I face, I will adopt agile, because I'm agile. I will adopt predictive method, the traditional methodology. Even I will adopt artificial intelligence if I can, I know the reality what is happening. I will adopt the Six Sigma methodology and all. The concept, where is the concept, the real concept of hybrid? What is the magic behind hybrid is there's a set of tools. You can one of the example, the carpenter. Carpenter is not at all using only one tool. Carpenter uses different tools as per the situation. The same thing we can adopt in the project management field, because situation is different. We cannot predict anything because these are the complex situation. So the agile is not at all is methodology, and waterfall is not a methodology. So the hybrid, we can blend together for complex situation and delivery. You can see the picture as well. The traditional, the set of require set of methodologies, the kickoff meeting, the step-by-step process. There is a linear process. One is the kickoff meeting, then we will arrange the planning schedule and business case and the same thing. And then later we will monitor and execute the project, and final and delivery and the closing the project and the lesson learned what we are discussing. And the same thing, agile. Apart from the scope is not fixed, because the customer requirement is getting variety, and the customer requirement alternatively will vary. Not in the case of the traditional, there is a fixed budget. Even it is fair, there is PM skill, PM and PM can want to handle the triple constraint, the project management triangle as balance. by equaling the scope, quality, and the time. He has to manage the equally. That's the real skill of the PM. In the agile case, it's iterative process. We can deliver the project step by as per the customer requirement. The same thing we can adopt. If you are saying in hybrid project management, the same thing we can adopt in execution phase, and same thing we can adopt in planning phase also, in engineering and procurement case. Because the iterative development, we can understand the real context, what is we have to achieve. The next thing is the industry base. If we are saying industry base, the project management, the hybrid possibility of the applicability and possibility of the hybrid project management, the construction field, honestly saying 70% we are using traditional project management, real waterfall. So I can assure that in future, definitely they will adopt the hybrid concept, because the hybrid is the only only have a future for complex situation. And in the IT sector, as they are already using Agile for better alignment, for more productivity, they can use the hybrid approach as well, because we can use in two approach blended together as per the real context, what is real situation is saying. And the healthcare industry, they are using both hybrid and agile and waterfall. So if we are using hybrid, suppose if we are trying to use agile, it's a better improvement in the final product for and post marketing and pharmacology projects, and the customer satisfaction as well. So in conclude, we can what I can say, no, we are not saying anything is bad, anything is good, because agile and this traditional model we can blend that together, and the hybrid we can use for our complex situation in coming decades. In my opinion,
So the idea is
okay.
basically based on the industry, we have to actually analyze and see which approach suits best. So as Mahesh mentioned about the construction industry, so there are a lot of examples where we have been doing design and planning in an agile way and the execution in a linear way, right? Suppose you are constructing a bridge, right? So you cannot actually deliver it in increments. So once it is complete, then only it can be used, right? So where we have a concept of potentially shippable or potentially releasable done increment. So for that, we have to see which industry works best. So if we talk about the IT industry, so we definitely use agile approaches, but that requires a lot of alignment and support from all the stakeholders. So that's the important thing, where sometimes we face challenges in terms of alignment. See, our internal leadership either is not aligned or the customer is not aligned, right, with agile approaches. And that's where we face such challenges. And similarly for healthcare. So I believe, Ankur, you have a classic example of pharmacovigilance projects.
That's true.
Trials where you share your experience.
Yeah, so in my experience, hybrid could be a better approach while we are implementing changes. Because when we talk about either of the approach, and I speak from my experience, which has been more towards the traditional or waterfall methodology, implementing change within the process while you are working through the project is actually pretty difficult for us. When I look into the agile approach, we do not have the time for reiterations again and again. So which method should we use here in this case? So like I said initially as well, we have to look into what my requirement is, what does the business need. So in this particular case, I would say that a hybrid approach makes much more sense in comparison to neither either traditional approach or maybe an agile mindset. So I would say hybrid in this case makes much more sense. That's why this is a better approach given in this particular task. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next part, which is about benefits and challenges. Mahesh.
So I already said the benefits, because the traditional in combining both, if we are using the traditional method and the agile method, we will get the both the flavor of the both in the hybrid methodology. We can use combining traditional techniques to resolve the many situations and can achieve the success. And if we are implementing the hybrid methodology, we can adopt the mix of waterfall and technology and agile methodology. By adopting the hybrid approach, we can use the traditional waterfall actually as a structure. That's waterfall is a structure process, first, second, third. So we can use the structure basis for waterfall, and for delivery purpose, we can use the iterative approach of agile. So the one of the main benefits this one. And the other thing is we will get both flexibility and adaptability and project for end delivery. And my main thing is one of the project management excellence. Hybrid is really is one of the project management excellence in the coming future. And the challenges, you know very well, this is what everything is depend upon the mindset. And for implementing, it's not only in the organization level, the personal level also is one of the main challenges. If you have a mindset, I can adopt and you can adopt. And the conflict between the organization level, whether it is succeed or it will fail or not. So everything is the practicality and applicability. And other things, the disturbance between the team and the management. There is definitely there will be a conflict. Suppose if you are giving an option for just idea or suggestion in front of the management, definitely management has to approve. The board of member has to be approved. This approach will be beneficial for the future project. So this is one of the major challenges in my opinion. And everything, the rest is thing, we need to the knowledge of agile and other methodology as well. Then only we can adopt the hybrid. Instead of saying simply hybrid, I can use this one, I can use so. As a PM, as a team member, and the entire organization has the good knowledge of agile and good knowledge of traditional project management. Then only we can adopt the hybrid, blended of the both. What is the positive is agile, what is the positive of the traditional project management. So it is the time taken, and it is required to be learned the time for the team and for organization. Yeah, it's a very one of the challenges and merits and demerits of the hybrid project management. So
Okay.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, thank you, Mahesh. So next we'll be covering about the anti-patterns, and for that I'll just go to Vikram. So over to you, Vikram.
Thanks a lot, Gaurav, and thanks guys for joining this evening session with us. And I'm sorry I have a bad throat. Unfortunately, childhood friend, the cold always gives me the trouble. But that's fine. Let me try my best. So myself, Vikram, and I'm carrying around 12 years of experience overall. I started my career with junior development into the mainframe technologies, and then into the open world, open softwares, open technologies, open source technologies, and then I'm into the PM roles. So with my experience, I have started with purely waterfall models to work upon. We had the support system, we have the development. And as correctly Mr. Dr. Hans already stated that the major responsibility of the project manager is to handle the stressful situations. And we can never predict all these stresses, and we can never always be adaptive towards responding to the stressful situations. So it's all depends on the different challenges or the situations we are into and how to tackle those. And that's why we are into the phase where we are discussing about the hybrid model of the project management. And I believe Mahesh and Ankur and Gaurav have already explained a lot about the hybrid management. But when we talk about the hybrid management, and when we see, okay, we are blending a few of the agility and few of the waterfall or the traditional management. But of course, like somebody likes the dark coffee and somebody doesn't like the dark coffee, and I am a tea lover. So it's all about the different flavors I personally people want to be in and how they want to drive the project. Ultimate goal is to get the success, right? Success is success in terms of the delivery, success in terms of the revenue, success in terms of the waste management. So everything comes with the blend. And when we are blending multiple things to make something successful, we need to think about the anti-patterns, which is really very important. We cannot blindly blend something and get something out of it. So generally, what in my opinion and what I have learned, I have read from multiple sources. There are few anti-patterns which we have stated here, like for example, an aggregated team velocity metric. and using it to predict the drive progress. So generally what happens, velocity, the term velocity is itself is misunderstood in many of the situations. Even the people who are into the agility, they also misunderstood the velocity term, right? So when we are blending agile with the traditional management methods, so what the senior management thinks about velocity is altogether a metric to understand the progress, but it's not like that. Velocity is specific to the team who are working with small team members towards a small goals. My team velocity can be a different one and your team velocity can be a different one. Together, I cannot mix those and can see, okay, as a senior project manager, as a director of the company, I will see, okay, this is the progress of my project. It's not the like case exactly. And secondly, this is always a very common thing, ubiquitous, when we are into the management and we are the bad faces for the team who are really working at the ground level. And sometimes we are into the mode where we are pushing them hard. We are asking them to work overtime just to showcase the improvement in the performance. That's the case with even the agility. That's the case with the waterfall. In any of the traditional or the classical or the adaptive management methods, it's the human tendency. Just push hard and get the benefit. But it's not like. We can push hard team to overcome their challenges. We can push hard a team to understand where they are lagging. But we should not push them hard to just work overtime and show the performance. Ultimately, what will happen? The team members are smart now. They're very smart. They understand, okay, my manager is not pushing me hard. So they will either cut short the testing. They will either estimate or already they will take the buffer in the estimations, right? We are losing the quality. So this is really a very important aspect to look after when we are into the hybrid or any of the management method per se. Third point is which I generally thinks about a lot when I am managing my team, so I am working with my team, is to basically as a manager, as a manager, we are the one who are assessing the risk, right? We do the risk assessment, we prepare the risk registers, and we always talk about the okay, handle the risk, minimize the risk. But certainly when we are into the blend mode, we are losing a lot about the risk exposures. They are either procrastinated to the end of the deliveries, or they were presumed a lot there when we think about, okay, things will not go in the right direction. So we need to actively manage all those risks where my team can be exposed to. Of course, when we talk about the stakeholders, that's again a very complex thing. It's all around the cost cutting. It's all around the time deliveries. It's all around the acceptance, and then the pressure a lot from the delivery slippages and the billing, ad hoc leaves.
The AOI.
Yes,
The
definitely.
margins.
Definitely. So managing the stakeholders is altogether a very important anti-pattern to handle when we talk about the blending. So a mindset which is coming from the productive approach and a mindset which is coming from the adaptive approach, those both are very difficult to make them run in parallel. They will definitely collide somewhere, and before that collision, we have to check that point. Okay, this can be a problematic area. A stakeholder can always be in a mode, okay, no, I just want that when we are going to deliver. At the same time, Agile says, man, wait for a few sprints. Let me check the team velocity. Let me check the team hurdles. Then only I will be able to give you a certain timelines. I cannot always predict, okay, this 22nd of November, I will deliver the project. It cannot be. Even if I take 7 days of buffer. So we have to very much, I would say, a thorough while dealing with the management and the stakeholders in the blend approaches, because ultimately productive and adaptive both it's very difficult to move them in parallel. Proxy releases is really a very, I would say, proxy itself is a very wrong word, right? When we are into the colleges, we are into the universities, we have to bunk the classes and okay, somebody is giving the proxy attendance on my behalf, right? So proxy itself is something which gives a bad impression, and which gives you a lot of vulnerability towards the failure, right? So what happens? What generally Scrum says, in every sprint we should be releasing into the production, but does it really happen? It does it really need it? I am not against Scrum. I am a very fond of Scrum. Definitely, I love Scrum. And in my teams, when I started in the management, I just started with the Scrum. And everyone, every project manager and every individual who are into the Agile should have started implementing the Scrum in his development team. Right? Scrum is really wonderful. But do we really release in every sprint? Certainly, yes, we do. But in the big projects, like for example, I'm into the banking domain, and I cannot challenge, or I cannot make my customers at risk to release in every 2 weeks. No, I cannot, right? There are certain compliances. There are a lot of things are strict. So what generally people do is, just to save ourselves from those 6 months of 6 sprints of releases, we start doing the proxy releases where we are not actually doing a thorough testing. We are just taking some of the stakeholders into the confidence and we do it. Even the stakeholders who are not authorized to go give us a green signal, then also we do it. Again, a human tendency. Do it, man. Do it. No, don't worry. Do it. Let's see what will happen. So that let's see will be a problematic for us. So when we blend with the classic and the new adaptive management approaches, proxy releases, we should be avoiding the proxy releases at any point of time. That's a very blunderable or a prone anti-pattern which I can think of, and I have seen that in my practical experiences. So, okay, very nice, but very debatable part as well. The second last point, I believe Ida has already read it and he can smile. He's smiling too while reading it. It's about Agile is a buzzword, right? Scrum 2020 guide has released last week, in this week, and LinkedIn is flooded with the Scrum 2020. Wow, a new Scrum guide, right? So Agile is like, everybody is talking about the Agile into the management, even the developers, even the senior management or the stakeholders. Clients want, oh, if your company is not Agile, I won't give you the project. Even maybe the client might itself don't know the Agile. But the Agile word itself is a hot word, is a buzzword. And what generally, while blending we do is just to showcase, we sprinkle something part of the agility and say ourselves as an Agile. No. It's really very difficult to master any of the Agile framework. Even it's easy to say Scrum, I'm a Scrum master, but really mastering a Scrum is very difficult. And just giving some of the names, say for example, the planning, we are doing the grooming now. We are not doing planning, we are grooming. Are we really grooming? Is there a product owner who is really explaining the why we need that story to deliver in the production? But we are grooming, right? we are not estimating in mandates. We are doing the story point estimations, but team doesn't know the story point estimation. They are still in a dilemma. They are still in a aura where they are saying, okay, I need 8 hours to write that code and 2 hours for the testing. So let's give it 5 points. So just giving a name of the ceremonies and calling us Agile, it's very difficult. It's really very bad. So this is of course a very challenging job when we blend it as per your requirement, just not to blend, just to flaunt. Right? our main motive is to get the work done with the quality, within the timelines. Last but of course not least, using the requirements, volatility majorly inappropriately to control the scope creep. So scope creep is again so scope creep is definitely another challenge when we talk about the we say, okay, I am very much agile, and I am adaptive to changes. I can get something into the mid of the sprint, or I am okay to get some of the change requests in between. That's not the part, right? We should not be using the scope creep just to showcase, okay, I am okay to get things done within the timelines. Like in this actually in this VUCA world, the requirement certainly changes, and just to name a scope creep, and we say, okay, say for example, my team velocity is x and x and x, and I have to do certain work, and what generally team will do. Okay, I cannot do that, right? My team velocity is not that much, my capacity is not that much, but we are misusing those words. Scope creep itself is a very big thing. When we are doing the requirement planning, when we are into the planning phase, if I go back to the traditional, and I was in a in a support team where we were supporting the nightly batches. I started my career with the support team. Of course, was not a good developer at that point of time, maybe, and certainly I learned a good development skills, maybe. But I was in a support team. It's not like support team doesn't have a good developers. It's not like that, of course. But yeah, when I was in a support team, it was okay when we talk about the scope creep, and we really didn't understand what is scope creep. And when we blend it with the different methodologies, we again misinterpreted the scope creep. So these are the few anti-patterns which, while making a project management solutions for your requirement, we should be thinking about these things in detail. And we should be discussing these, of course, are very much needed. I think this is all from my side, Gaurav, I believe, and I should have not taken a lot of time, but
That's really wonderful, Vikram. I think you have shared your past experiences as well when you talk about these anti-patterns. And one thing which you mentioned about proxy releases, I feel is the flip side is that you are actually increasing the technical debt.
yes, definitely. We are including the increasing the technical depth on that. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and over a period of time, when we say that, okay, agile has one benefit of continuous improvement and quality, and that quality aspect, I think we miss that, right? And that's the
Yes,
challenge when
that's a challenge.
we focus too much on the fast delivery and not looking at the direction which we should choose to adopt or to bring the better outcomes.
Better outcomes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, I'll just move on to the next topic. And I believe there were some questions around how we can make these different approaches talk to each other, and how we can actually implement it. So next is about the hybrid project management structures and types, right? So this again has been taken from the IAPM white paper, which Dr. Stromer was mentioning. So I'll be giving you some examples of different structures and types. So first structure is about an incubator structure. So as you all know that incubator is actually a self-contained area where you give care to babies, right? Hospitals. So the perspective of incubator is to give a protected environment, right? If something new or something which is not very healthy in nature, and we want to see what are the outcomes. So we create a protective environment for that new approach and let that evolve. And outside that protected environment, we actually benchmark the outcomes. So why do we benchmark the outcomes? So that if the results are positive, we can actually replicate it in other environments or in our other projects or programs. So that's the idea behind creating an incubator structure. So this structure is not classic, this structure is not agile, and this structure is not even hybrid. So this structure is something which you are actually allowing to evolve, and based on the outcomes, you decide whether we should go with this approach or not. So it's creating your own approach, right? So there are times where you want to blend something, but you are not very sure whether we should actually adopt this practice and look into our existing culture, and which is the hardest thing to change in any organization, right? And the existing project management approaches. So we want to try it and see, but at the same time, we want to give that approach evolve so that we can actually see what are the results. So that's the idea behind creating an incubator structure. Then the next is about a container solution. So container solution is something where you are actually bringing another concept, right, from an existing methodology, and you are using some new approach or new model from outside. So the idea is the new model and the existing model will run on their own, and as such there will not be any conflict in that, right? So what we are actually doing, one common example is where, say, we use Scrum, and we also use, say, some of the waterfall or linear type of methodology, right? Let's take an example in software industry, where we have a fixed price contract. Now the challenge with the waterfall or fixed bid contracts is that you have the fixed price and you also have the timeline to deliver in that time frame, but you have to deliver something incrementally in agile fashion, right? So after every iteration of 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, there should be something usable, right? Or there should be something which can go into production. Now in such situations, you are actually not disturbing the existing project management structure, as well as you are allowing the new system to come in so that you can actually see how this incremental and iterative approach from agile can work well with the existing waterfall model, right? So this is one example of classic agile, where you are blending the waterfall and the agile approaches. Then there is another approach of agile. So this is another form of container solution where you can actually blend, say, Scrum, and you can also blend a lean model, say Kanban, and you make it a Scrumban. So that is something which helps you in not only doing the time boxing, but also helps you in improving the workflow. So the idea behind Kanban is that you also remove the bottlenecks in the process, improve the workflow, and at the same time limits the work in progress limits. If you have too many items in your plate, there may be chances that at the end of iteration, you are not able to deliver even a single item, right? So how you can do that? You need to have some work in progress limit. And the best way is, say, for example, you have a team of 5 people. Now, what should be my work in progress? I'm starting my project, but I don't know what should be my work in progress. So the best way is keep a limit of 5. The team members, you have 5, and keep a maximum limit of 5. Don't go beyond that. And over a period of time, see whether this limit 5 actually works or you need to tweak it, right? So that's the way you can actually blend a Scrum and a Kanban model, where you have some sort of individual tasks which can work independently, where there is no concept of creating increments or integrating it into a product, there you can use a Kanban model, and where you have some sort of product development where you need to integrate multiple features, there you can use a Scrum process framework. So that's how you can club Scrum and Kanban. But at the same time, this hybrid approach will give you that flexibility of delivering when required, not only on the basis of time boxing. See, when we talk about Scrum framework, it says you have to keep your sprints either 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, right? Or 1 week. So it starts from 1 week to 1 month. And it is recommended that you keep the duration of the sprint fixed. But that does not give me the flexibility always, right? That's a problem. Unless you have your features clearly defined, there may be chances that you are not able to deliver, say, few features in a time frame of or an iteration of 2 weeks, right? So there you face a challenge. Okay, in the last iteration, I was able to deliver, but in this iteration, this 2 week is looking somewhat less. So what should I do? So there you need to have that flexibility which allows you to deliver on the basis of requirement, right? Not only on the basis of prescriptive method where you have fixed time frame, right? So that's what hybrid is, to have that flexibility. Then you have another structure which is known as partial assimilation. So what partial assimilation says, you are picking the existing structure of classic or the waterfall or the traditional way of project management. And along with that, you pick the best practices from Agile. The overall structure remains the same. So for example, you have, say, retrospective and reviews after each iteration, right? So you have the sprint reviews, the sprint retrospective. So what a project leader or a manager can do, he can pick those best practices from Agile way of working, right? From, say, Scrum framework, and implement it in the existing classic approach, which is more of a phased approach. So you are blending the best practices from Agile to make your deliveries continuous, right? So that's how you can blend it. So in partial assimilation, you are not disturbing the existing structure of your waterfall model, right? Then you have another approach which is known as synthesis. So here synthesis, what you are actually doing, you are integrating two approaches, right? This is similar to the earlier approach which I mentioned about Agile. This is again similar to Scrum Ban. But the difference is, in synthesis approach, what it does is it helps you to overcome the deficiencies of one approach by blending another model or approach with the existing approach. Say there could be situations where Scrum alone is not working well, right? Say it works on the time box principle, but you need a approach which helps you to deliver just in time, right? So there you need to have a Kanban approach which does not hamper the existing way of Scrum, but it helps you in overcoming the challenges which are there in the existing framework. So that's why we blend these two, and it helps in giving that integrated approach where you can deliver based on the requirements, right? So as you can see in a manufacturing world, you have an assembly line, and whenever you have a requirement, you basically produce the product, right? But if you are not caring about the requirement and you are simply producing it, so there may be a situation that you are overproducing and you don't have the space to actually take care of all the additional production items which you have produced, right? So whenever it is required, do that production. So that's how this synthesis model helps you in overcoming the challenges of the existing model and helping the deliveries with the best practices from another approach. Then there is another model or an approach which is known as parallel worlds. So normally when we talk about hybrid, so it's more about parallel world where you are doing the classic model as well as you're blending it with agile. But the difference in parallel model is that you are not actually disturbing the existing approach, and you are allowing the modules to be developed independently, right, from each other. Let's take an example. Say, for example, you have some hardware components to be developed and some software components, right? And now you want that there should not be any dependency between hardware and software as such. So in such situations, what we can do the hardware development in a linear way, in a traditional manner, and software development in an iterative and incremental manner, right? So which gives us the continuous feedback loop, which helps us to improve, which helps us to adapt. So here the hardware is built independently of software, right? So in such approaches, you get the benefits of linear model, sequential way of development, as well as iterative and incremental, where your requirements are still evolving, and you also want to do a check whether whatever you are building is as per the expectation and how the market is actually responding to those deliveries or the product which you are building, right? Then you have another approach which is known as interlocked solution. So here in interlocking, you have some sort of dependency. So what happens in interlocked model, it is again a classic agile model, the blend of two. But here you basically define some approaches in advance. Like you want to build something, so you will define that approach in advance, and you will also define those dependencies which are there on your sub projects and work packages. A similar example could be an hardware or a software. So what happens in hardware and software? Like you are working in a embedded systems in a world where your hardware need to interact with your software, and on the basis of that interaction, there needs to be some output which is generated. So in such situations, you have some sort of dependency. And there could be another scenario, like you have a team which is part of hardware team also, as well as a software team also. There could be situations like an infrastructure team. So there you have hardware components as well as software components. And there could be one team which is working in both the domains or in both the areas. So there you need to see how you will actually help the hardware delivery to go in a timely manner, as well as it should not impact your software delivery. So there you need to define the dependencies in advance and also define the approach which will help you in identifying those dependencies, and will also let you know that how you are going to deliver this integrated solution. So that is the idea behind interlocked solution. So here you have dependency, but in parallel world, you do not have that dependency, right? So that's the basic difference between parallel world and the interlocked solution. Then last but not the least is a coupled system. So coupled system is actually a blend of agile, lean, agile. So how it goes is, let's take an example, say design thinking. So design thinking is a way where you create some testable prototype. So what exactly you do in design thinking? You basically empathize with your customer. You do a prototype, then you test it, then you basically measure the results and refine it. So that's how the design thinking helps you in creating a testable prototype. Then you bring some lean approaches, which helps you in improving your process, right? And removing some sort of bottlenecks, or streamlining your existing processes also. So in such situations, you basically use design thinking, some lean approaches, and you also need to see whether you are actually able to deliver and get a quick feedback. So for that, you incorporate the concept of minimum viable product. So minimum viable product is a product or the set of features which gives you an early feedback and allows you to basically do a hypothesis testing, right? So MVP or minimum viable product is a way of hypothesis testing. It helps you to validate that whether your product or your minimum set of features can be marketed or you are moving in the right direction. So it helps the team to learn from that feedback and adjust based on the results. And along with that minimum viable product, you need to have some approach or some process framework, say Scrum, or any other approach, maybe a Kanban, or maybe any different, say XP. So in such situations, you are actually blending the design thinking, the minimum viable product feature, and some process framework. Similarly, you have an example where using your XP, extreme programming sprints, in a Scrum model. So what happens in extreme programming, you have various concepts of like pair programming. So what happens in pair programming? So two developers work together, one writes the code and other one reviews it. So it helps in bringing that continuous code review mechanism in place. So you do not need to actually create a process separately for code review because it is reviewed side by side, right? So that's the beauty of bringing XP sprints in a Scrum framework. So that's how you can couple these various agile, lean, agile approaches so that you bring a coupled system and deliver the best outcomes. So this is again taken, as I mentioned, from the IAPM Hybrid Project Management White Paper, and you can go through this on the website. So this discusses all these various different structures and types. So something about the best practices, and then we can move on to some of the questions. I can see that various questions are coming, and Vikram, Mahesh, and Ankur are responding to those questions. So last but not the least, about some of the best practices. See, incorporating the best practices from predictive and adaptive approaches brings that flexibility and allows you to bring the approaches which helps you to deliver better outcomes. So it is not only about the outcomes, but there is a path. You define some deliverable, which is actually your output. And then that output gives you that required outcome, which is expected, so that it can give you a desired impact. So from output to impact, that journey can be successful when you are able to incorporate the best practices from predictive and adaptive approaches. So you get that predictability in place. You also have that adaptability so that you can blend both these approaches. And it is also very important that you align your strategic goals with the initiatives. If you are not aligned your goals with the initiatives, there are chances that you will not get the desired result. So it is very important your initiatives should align with your strategic goals. It is also very important to understand the project and the team size before adopting any approach. Like we were talking about Scrum process framework. So it says that there should be some minimum number of team members, say for 3 members or any number, and maximum to 8 or 10, right? That is what it says. Now the point is, if you do not have that minimum number of team members, then that approach or framework will become an overhead for you, right? Because you don't have that required number of people to actually communicate and collaborate, right? Because the idea behind is collaboration. And if it goes beyond that maximum number, it will be very difficult to collaborate. The number of communication channels will increase. So that is why it has kept some number. You also need to gain organizational support. That's very important unless all the stakeholders are aligned to go for an hybrid approach or a predictive model or an adaptive model, right? Then you need to continuously collaborate and communicate with your development team, right? How they are improving the results, whether there is a learning curve. So that learning curve is very important to understand how much time the team will need to learn and then to actually implement. So that is very important in terms of blending different approaches. And at the same time, you also need to plan and prioritize. Similarly, you also need to continuously measure, and then only you can improve. Right? The degree of adaptability and flexibility impacts the outcomes. So the more degree of adaptability and flexibility you have, the better will be the outcomes. And finally, there is no one size fits all approach. So there is no approach which we can actually recommend. Rather, it's a basis on the context and your specific needs, which you have to see while blending different approaches, right? So this is all from us. If there are any questions coming up, we can answer them. Or I can just invite Dr. Helio, if he is there with us, to speak few words about the flex hybrid model.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, fantastic. So Dr. Helio, over to you. So you have been a real gem in the world of hybrid project management, and we would like to hear about your ideas, your thoughts, and your perspective.
Well, my idea about hybrid product management is some of everything that you talked about. that's it. Yeah. That's it. You have talked about everything that I have in mind when I created the flex model. Yeah. So what's the idea? It's to provide the organizations and projects and portfolios and programs and everything we use it to manage. This kind of flexibility to be comfortable in using everything you want. This is the idea. In the flex model, you can use, for example, you can have both approaches that you have. All types of hybrid process you can apply there, because sometimes you have a predictive approach or a predictive scope and mix it with an uncertain scope. And sometimes you have to get the best practice for everything you have. But the most difficult thing for me is not blending practices. It's changing the mindset. This is the most challenging thing for me. This is why I created the hybrid manifesto, this hybrid manifesto online. This is why I'm trying to improve a different mindset that is able to accommodate both worlds. I actually, in my 20-year experience, I've been watching people say, no, this one is the best, this one is the best. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this. This is a nonsense discussion. This is a nonsense discussion. It's like saying that, okay, what is best, a knife or a fork? It's useless. What is the best, a knife or a fork? It depends on what you want. That's the point. And for me, the magic of hybrid approach is I'm comfortable and I don't have any prejudice. Anything can happen here, but it's a big challenge nowadays, because there is like veil war between two approaches. People adopting and being saying, okay, no, this one is the only one. Oh, I only want to be agile. Agile is everything. No, predictive is the only solution. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. So trying to change this mindset, trying to change this culture of one is better than the other. This is, I'm sorry for the word, but this is ridiculous. Okay, this is ridiculous for me. It's nonsense for discussing this. We just want to do that. Another second challenge that I see is how to create a hybrid, let's say, structure from the strategy until your product. This is not a challenge, because if you don't have a hybrid mindset from the top until the lowest level, you'll be in trouble. This is a big challenge. So I think when you're trying to implement a hybrid model or a hybrid approach or a hybrid anything, you must think in parallel with a change management process. I think this is very challenging, and you must do that step by step. I don't think it's useful, or even if it's suitable, to apply, okay, let's go change everything for a hybrid, but right now, I don't think it will work. I think you must go step by step, just like an adaptive model. There you try to do something, adapt, collect feedback, and then you improve, and then you grow and grows and grows. I start in the flex model, I start by the strategy, my classical strategy and classical change management. And then I come to introduce a VMO, a value management office, as you know, Gaurav, you said. And then in the value management office is responsible for creating value, but minimizing the global risks. This is a major change when you think about creating value in a hybrid approach, because you have to create value as well as a predictive model, but you are in a mixed environment, which there is a lot of uncertainty. So when you're trying to apply a hybrid approach, you are in the middle of the both approaches. You have a lot of uncertainties, and you also need to create value in this environment. So the challenge is, how do I create value with a minimal risk as possible? This is a big mindset that you have to change. It's not just a question of prioritizing things. So this is why I decided to implement a mix of hybrid strategy, mixing predictive strategies, also an OKR, which is a strategy that's being adaptive. And then when the best thing for me is creating a small part of logic. It's a way of working logically, very simple, and then scale this for a whole organization. For example, you must operate on the same structure, in the same mindset from the basic level for people and teams developing products, and also managing projects, and also programs, and also portfolios, and also your VMO with your OKRs. So if you don't have the same structure, the same mindset, the same process working, I think it's very hard, because if you don't do this, there will be a kind of fight between people that are trying to do in this way. No, I'm doing this way, I'm doing that way. No, try to implement something that is likewise for everyone, and allow flexibility enough to accommodate both approaches. This is why if you don't have flexible strategy, if you don't have flexible way of producing some things, if you don't have flexible way to planning, if you don't create flexibility enough to adapt your program for coordinations and everything, you are in trouble. You will not be able to apply a pure native hybrid approach. This is why Flex is about. Flex is about trying to implement a simple way of understanding the culture, understanding the environment, and allowing people to implement things step by step. Providing the predictability that is characteristics from the predictive world that business and clients and shareholders need. But doing this in an agile way or an adaptive way, allowing flexibility for the uncertainty that is, let's say, that is natural in our environment nowadays. We're all living in an environment that is completely adaptive. So if we don't come to the reality that being adaptive is necessary, you'll be lost. You'll be lost. So the challenge here, the magic here is how to mix both. And I think that you must start first by how can I be flexible enough to live in both worlds with no fighting, but in a harmonious way. This is the point. This is the idea behind Flex.
Yeah.
This is the idea. And if you want to, and the Flex, I'll write here on the chat.
Yeah. So very nicely put up, Dr. Helio, and I believe you have rightly mentioned that the open mindset will actually help in bringing that hybrid approach, right? So that mindset is the most important thing.
I think that to change
predictive or adaptive, yeah.
I think that the change management process, implementing a hybrid mindset, not only predictive or it's not a question of this. It's a question of trying to implement a hybrid environment which allows everything, and you are able to do the thing. If I need to be more predictive in this approach, I will be, and that's okay. And if I want and I need to be more adaptive, it's okay also. So it's not a question of, it's just a question of tailoring, just like Mr. The first said, it's a kind of tailoring. So this is why, and the Flex model you can download at the site where I listed here on the chat. It's for free. Now you already download. I think you download that. So just like Mahesh. So this is my idea about it. It's a mix of everything that you said, and you are correctly. You are very, very right. I really think that this is a kind of future, the trend for me, because in my opinion, in my experience, and by what I hear people saying, that there is a lot of people working in a predictive world, and it's correct. It will never end. We'll still be building houses and bridges and industries. It's necessary. And there is a lot of people that migrated to trying to pure agile way. And when they got there, they have discovered that, oh, this is nice, this is good, but I need something else. And they started to turn back, but I don't want to be there anymore. But this here is not enough for me.
Yeah.
Where am I right now? So they are in a hybrid world. So I need to discuss this subject, create tools, create processes. This is why Flex is about trying to create process tools and techniques in an environment for people that want to be not in a pure predictive and not in a pure adaptive world. Okay, where can I have support to try to do something hybrid? This is what Flex is about. Okay.
And then only you can look in all the directions.
You can look, if you are in the middle way, you can look both sides and even upwards and downwards and say, okay, I'm enough. I'm comfortable with that. But if you are only in one side, you cannot look at the other side because you're only sideways. So this is bad. You're not flexible enough to look at both sides and sideways. This is why. This is how I think. This is how
broad vision, I think. Broad vision.
Yes.
It's a broad vision.
It reminds me. Reminds me of my childhood.
One side, okay, it's a broad vision.
It's a broad vision. It's a broad and flexible vision. That's why the name is Flex. This is why Flex with KS in the middle. This is why Flex. You must. I think flexibility is the basis for adaptability. If you're not flexible, you cannot adapt to anything.
If there is no flexibility, nothing.
There is no adaptability.
Nothing is possible.
That's it.
So this actually reminds me of my childhood. Like father used to teach while crossing the road, you need to look at the left, then right, and then again see left, then move on.
Yeah,
that's it.
This is what the hybrid, right? We need to be flexible, look at all the directions, and choose the best which fits your situation. That's what are needed.
That's the point.
Absolutely.
That's the point. This is why I think it's ridiculous, the discussion which one is the best. What is the best? Vikram, what is the best? A truck or a Mercedes?
Both have their purpose.
If you want to move your house on another one, you don't need a Mercedes. You don't need a Mercedes. My God, I don't need Mercedes.
Absolutely.
I need a truck. My God. And sometimes you need both.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need both. Yes.
Sometimes you need both. So we're saying, what's the problem? No problem. And I think the discussion is, oh my God, I'm tired about this discussion. if you are really hybrid, this discussion is over, and we don't have time. We don't have more time to discuss about this. This
it took a lot of courage, Helio. It's a lot of courage to be straightforward.
I use this in this situation. I use agile in that situation. I use predict. Forget about it. Be hybrid, so you are able to do anything you want. So there's no more time to discuss. Oh, where do I want this? Where do I want this? Be hybrid. Period. Point. Period.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's really wonderful.
Wonderful.
Really wonderful.
Thank you, Dr. Helio. So that was a great viewpoint from your end. And so we had a lot of good discussions and great audience. So I would like to thank the great audience for their great questions. And I think we are 5 minutes over. So, but anyways, it was
my fault.
no, that's okay. That's okay.
My fault.
It was so interesting to hear you.
Not at all.
But that was a wonderful summarization of the entire discussion.
Yes,
definitely.
yes. So that was the icing on the cake.
Icing on the cake, definitely. Yeah.
So thanks everyone, and I wish you a happy Sunday, and stay safe, and thanks for joining this session. Bye-bye.
Wear the mask.
Bye-bye. Have a nice
mask.
Wear the mask.
Very much,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, Linda.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And thanks.
Thank you.